Okay. Is this anyone can connect here, Chaitanya Chandra?
Yes, anybody that we have sent a link to, they will be able to connect here.
Who did we send a link to? You mean all disciples?
All initiated disciples, all disciples that have been accepted, all disciples that have been, all of those have been introduced, and there were a few names of devotees that were connected somehow or another with us.
Okay. I guess I want to go through all the people that I see, and because it's a lot, and but well, so I see it in a different way. Okay, here I see like that, and I see Krishna Mitradas. That's because he's near my cursor, and Hina. Hina is, oh yeah, 25th is when you get your visa, hopefully. Okay, we're waiting, and well, there's so many devotees, I can't say everybody's name, but I'm just having a quick scan. Keshava Priya, the Tiger, sorry, and boy, Hare Krishna, Dina Bandhu, I see, Chandramala, and Mahadev, and Gaura Arti is there as well. Oh, Hare Krishna. I just saw your lovely pictures and everything. And Shalini Priya. Anyway, I can only mention some individual ones. And Vaidarbi. And that's about, and then we have one other page. Gopi Baba and Sham. I see them. Okay. Hare Krishna, everybody. And I have a whole bunch of devotees here in the temple room. It's very, very pleasant. Very pleasant weather. So I'm just going to change that. And and all of a sudden, Kartik came onto my screen. Okay.
Maharaj, the sound is a little muffled and distant. I'm not sure if it's possible to put the microphone closer.
Well, I'm not using a microphone, I'm using a computer. I could have gotten my microphone from there. Is it still muffled?
I think last time there was either a book in front of the microphone, or maybe the microphone is on the stand and the stand is obstructing the microphone on the iPad or the computer. I don't know. Mukunda Prabhu, if he's there, you might be able to see.
Well, yeah, one is training, and it gets out yeah, does that sound better?
That's better.
Like, okay, we'll elevate it. We'll put something underneath, and I don't even know where the microphone is, but I guess it's somewhere.
Yeah, it's much better. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, well, I'm just sitting here holding the thing in my hand like that, but I'll just wait to get a. Oh, let's start. Hasta çörgü tadı da fakette çörgü. Okay, I got a high level technology here. I just got to keep it from sliding. It's it would be very good because it wouldn't heat up with this thing. It's just because I have this slanted top. I should have got a microphone. Now I need something to hold that up. Yo, hold on up, thing. I'm your tech thing. SEO. Okay, how's that? What did you say?
Yes.
It's better?
Yes, it's better. Thank you.
Okay. So, so I was saying that we're having a lovely weather over here. It's not too hot, although unfortunately it's not raining, and that's causing serious problems throughout Europe. We're celebrating Lord Balaram's Jayanti, and devotees will be doing celebration on Sunday, but we have observance today, and Lord Balaram's out there, very, very beautiful. I've been sort of busy with regular affairs. Writing has been good. Other things have been, in one sense, taking up a little too much time. Somehow life was quieter during COVID. It was more peaceful. And otherwise, I'm just thinking about saying something about myself. I don't know, making a noise, but how do I, Chaitanya, how do I actually shut off the screen so different people don't keep popping up in front of me all the time?
I'm just trying to figure that out now, actually.
Either I just see myself, or I don't really, see anybody. Okay, that way I see myself.
Yeah.
It's and we're all getting older. I think devotees need to. I don't know how much devotees are aware of what's going on around in the world. I suggest you become aware, just so that you don't get caught by surprise, and be aware of the different situations on one side, the lack of resources on the other side. You have poor on the other side. You constantly have the outlook of different pandemics. and then you have other issues such as the possibility of wars. So it's a pretty shaky state of affairs, and then as usual, state of the global economy is very bad, and from the ecological point of view, then things are also always very, very shaky. So all that sort of adds up and compounds to something else. At one level, I mean, okay, and all that really just adds up to potential change. And all I can say is that don't get too comfortable about the world that you're living in. It's not staying the way it is. It's going to change, and you should be prepared for that. You should be prepared for that psychologically. You should be prepared for that. And I don't know, there's always some kind of sound in the background. You hear it? Are they translating up there? Now, before you okay. And psychologically, that should be prepared, and obviously, physically, you should be prepared, which means that you have be in an environment and secure environment where you can live. So because that's the basic necessities of life, like water, food, shelter, warmth, these things need to be there. So that's just something from the everyday news. And I wanted to look at, I had a few questions here, and I was going to just quickly zoom through. That's a good pun. I was going to zoom through the devotees, and Chaitanya Chandra, where's just the list of devotees? No,
You want me to send it again?
You could send it to me on email again.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'll just go to one of these questions, and that is that this is from Rabbi Meir. Would you want us to recite your pranam mantra and Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantra? Many times we hear from different devotees, different versions on this topic. or what would your divine grace prefer disciples to follow? Well, the question is, what do we do for Srila Prabhupada? When we chant pranams for many gurus, then we're always chanting the immediate one, current one first, and then comes the later one. That's the general system. So I would think, or I would expect that that's also the same that one chants pranam mantra of one spiritual master, of Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, like that. Because Srila Prabhupada is special to ISKCON, should we chant his pranam mantra first? Well, there's no harm. Devotees can do that if they prefer, but that seems to be the system. On our altar, we go from left to right. Although interestingly, in Gaudiya Math, they go from right to left. So both are acceptable, but if you ask me what is the way that we do it, then we ask Prabhupada's disciples what to do, and they say you chant Prabhupada's and then you chant the others. So on the basis of Prabhupada being the founder of Acharya, on the basis of that's the order of the parampara. So then I would say that one, that Guru, Prabhupada, etc., and others. And there's no, it's not impolite. The actual system of emphasis is that what comes last is the most important. So in a string of things, either a list of things, a list of names, a list of people, etc., then what comes last is what's the most important. So first doesn't mean most important. It's not a slight to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, now Chaitanya Chandra sent me those lists, and okay, introductions. Okay, Avashki Purti. I've already met her and spoken to her. Lukach Toki, Hare Krishna. Now, Almashi Gabriela. Boy, that's a long time. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Yeah. And Karman Khan, I don't know whether she's on. I don't know what time it is in Fiji right now. Is ahead of us. Is she on Chaitanya Chandra, or you don't know?
I saw her. I saw her.
Okay. And I heard that she was Yuteshwari's friend's mother. And then there's Jacopo Fidan Faridovich, and that's Lalita Leela's husband. And Tanchishovsky and Ferry, Pavel Ferry. Okay, that's to be talked with Lord Krishna. And Sarvash Ildiko, Hare Krishna, and Celine. Yes, we finally met up over here and discovered she'd actually been here in New Amsterdam. Peter Lorinsky, he's here, or maybe, he's still here. And Peteroli Rambourg from Wales. That really doesn't sound like a Welsh name.
From Sweden.
From Sweden, And Tetera, she's over here, off there in the corner. Shamasunder, I saw him earlier. Melissa was just here. And Branimir Bundya from Ireland. We don't know what he looks like. And Balazs Gergely, we certainly know what he looks like. Suvarna Gaur. Okay. That's really sort of struck me while he's standing there with his arms crossed. But anyway, I'll talk to him about that. And then his wife is Ekta Sharma, another Sharma. Hitesh and Alpa from Leicester. And Francis Eva, Budapest from Budapest, and Adrian. Yeah, I met him in Timisoara. No, I met him here, but he's from Timisoara. So Hare Krishna, that's a long list of devotees. I was really quite sort of surprised when I saw it.
Can I just mention that, Guru Maharaj? Sorry to interrupt you. So these are devotees that have introduced their intent to Guru Maharaj. This means that they're expressing their desire to become, at a certain point, aspiring disciples. And they might already have known Guru Maharaj for some time, but now they're expressing that desire. So from 6 months from this point onwards, if they get a recommendation from their council or a temple authority, and they write a letter asking for acceptance, then they will become officially accepted as aspiring disciples. So these devotees now that Guru Maharaj just read out, they've introduced their intent, they've introduced their desire to develop the relationship with the understanding of to accept Guru Maharaj later as their guru, and for him to accept them as aspiring disciples. So they're not qualified to chant or not allowed to chant the pranam mantra at this stage. The devotees in the next list, these are the devotees that will be officially accepted, and they are allowed to chant the pranam mantra, which we will send to you like a graphic and an audio afterwards. So the devotees just read out, that's an introduction, that's not acceptance, and the devotees now the Guru Maharaj will list. These are the devotees that are being officially accepted and will have permission to chant the pranam mantra.
I just have to add that you can hear okay now.
Yeah.
Okay. I just have to add that the devotees have to pass the disciple course. And it's not a given that 6 months from now they get accepted. I need to be able to interact with devotees, and just like they're expressing their interest, so I'm also expressing my interest, but it shouldn't be something that's just automatic that I'm obliged to do. Especially if I get to know devotees, I'd rather get to devotees, know devotees in advance, rather than later. And maybe we come to mutual agreement that, well, it's not in everyone's best interest to continue on like that in an introduction. That maybe they should look for someone else for a spiritual master. Okay, well, I'm waiting for sort of that type of. Anyway, that's the basis, and what I was going to say is I'm waiting for when I have a shorter list. Put it that way. New acceptances, and Dekeshi Erna, that's a long time, and Parul Mehta, and Bhaktivedanta Menon, and Chaplar Juri, Laszlo Pop, who's in London, and Harini Priya, yes. She's up in Birmingham. And Lasser David is over here. Archana Sundarmurti, she was also, I met there. And Richard Barani, Jaira Resham, Dr. Richie, we know him well. Kaushik Makwana, wow, Kaushik, oh, long time. Nice to see. And Elena Serginova Skvortsova. And she is in Tomsk. And Abigail, well, that was a good example, is when Abigail was here and we spent some time together. And then she, expressed a desire that, well, she thought better not to continue the relationship. And I thought that was great. I think that's what devotees need to be extremely clear-minded about what it is. It's a really long-term marriage, and it's quite unconditional. So it has to be really well thought out. And the Francis Sabi, and Alexander Royak Alexandrovich. Well, that's good. That's Alexander Alexandrovich. It's hard to forget his name. And he's in Ukraine. So I hope he's in a safe place. This is safer place as you can be in the material world. So Hare Krishna to these ladies and gentlemen. Chaitanya Chandra, you want to say something about them?
Yeah, just that those devotees that Guru Maharaj has just read out, you are now officially accepted as aspiring disciples, and you have permission to chant the Pranam mantra. And I will send you that in the next few hours after this meeting, a graphic of the Pranam mantra and also an audio of the Pranam mantra. And good luck. Hare Krishna.
Okay, I'll answer another question that I have here, and then I got one very interesting question from Manjari that I can't answer, but that I will bring up with something. Maybe I'll ask Chaitanya, Ananda Chaitanya, to do research on. This is also second question, Ram Bhadra. During Mangalarti time, when singing Guru Vastakam prayer, is our meditation meant to be for Srila Prabhupada or to our spiritual master? Well, my understanding has always been to our spiritual master. So, Bande Guru Sri Charanarvindam. So, Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasada Sri Radhika Madhavaruvatara. So, Sakshad Hari. And so that we're chanting and we're offering our respects to our spiritual master. And then when we have the Guru Vandana at 7, whenever time that we have it, 7:10, something like that. After deity greeting, then that's for Srila Prabhupada exclusively. So Guru Vastika at 4:30 is for Diksha Guru and Shiksha Gurus, and which Srila Prabhupada maybe, and well, not maybe, is. And then, of course, there's Srila Prabhupada's exclusive Guru Vandana that we call Guru Puja, and then we're worshiping Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya of the Krishna consciousness movement, offering flowers and so on. I think sometime back there was sort of some disagreement about that, but after all, what's Krishna consciousness without the ability and privilege of being able to meditate on your spiritual master? In other words, if that becomes a taboo topic, or it becomes sort of outlawed, that you're not allowed to meditate on your spiritual master, how do you make spiritual advancement? So yes, that's fine, and we should recognize that there is a very very extensive teachings in Krishna consciousness, specifically regarding worship of the spiritual master. And when Srila Prabhupada writes in his books, very, very rare that he refers to himself, that he says me. He's always talking about spiritual master, spiritual master, spiritual master. So when Prabhupada writes somewhere that one cannot make advancement without the mercy of the spiritual master, then that doesn't mean without his mercy. It means without his mercy to his disciples, but it means spiritual master is a generic term. You can't get away from it. And the way Srila Prabhupada mentions it, you can't avoid it. And therefore, this principle, which is the real bedrock foundation of advancement in spiritual life, Ado Guru Padashraya. So first thing is you take shelter of the spiritual master, and then the sanctity of the relationship between guru and disciple. There's one example. I'm just trying to remember the context. Anyway, it went like this. It had to do with Krishnamai, who's not here, but she was in Vrindavan, and I had she was supposed to do something, and I can't remember what it was, but that was the point. She was supposed to do something that I told her to do, and I think she wanted to continue listening to the kirtans that were going on in Balaram Baba's. So somehow Balaram Baba asked, what are you doing? And she says, I was supposed to do that, but I'm here listening to the kirtan. And so he started to chastise her. He says, why? Why are you here? If your guru has told you that you have to do this, then what are you doing sitting here chanting Hare Krishna? You should immediately go and do what we're told to do. So it's very clear to everybody else in not just Krishna consciousness movement, ISKCON, but in other sampradayas and around the world, that this Yasya Prasada, Bhagavad Prasada, Yasya Aprasada, Nagati Kutoki, and that's a foundation, and devotees shouldn't allow that foundation to be undermined in any way. And the Shakshat Hari, you just can't get around Shakshat Hari. Otherwise, why are we chanting it every morning? There's the only way you can be Shakshat Hari is if you're Shakshat Hari. You are the representative. If someone is empowered to be the ambassador of a certain country, it doesn't matter whether he's a clown, whether he's anything, but if he's the ambassador, he's the ambassador, and he represents that country. So now this very interesting, I raise it because it's, I think I'd heard it before, it may have been from Manjari, but this is about the topic of what is the difference between hearing from a sadhu in person or hearing a recording or reading a book by the same sadhu. Now, before I even get into that, there's a sort of a prelude to this question, and that is that, by the way, it's so much more peaceful in here. Before, it's really hard to concentrate where there's a lot of things going on. So the question comes up quite a bit. Is it all right for devotees to, watch classes virtually? Now, my answer would be that only when there's no other alternative. In other words, only when they can't come in person. For instance, if you're going to ask me whether devotees in New Brajadam or devotees in Shamagramas should watch classes virtually, I'd say no, unless someone's sick and on their back, or someone else is taking care of 4 children, and therefore in the middle of that they're trying to listen. Sure, of course, but as a type of comfort, as a new style of listening to Bhagavatam class, where it doesn't matter what you look like, you kick up your feet, maybe you stay awake, maybe you don't. Who knows what other things go on in the middle of everything else. I don't think that is a real quality. When we're talking about devotees who are at a distance, what can you do? Devotees who are in Budapest, they don't have to come down here just for a class. What to speak of devotees who are in London or New York or somewhere else? Yes, certainly. But if devotees in New York have classes, if they're watching online classes that are going on in New York, then it's preferable that you go. I don't think that it certainly doesn't. On my side, as someone who would give a class, earlier sometimes I'd sit here with 3-4 devotees in the temple room, and then in the meantime, there's like 1,000 devotees watching online. But I can't reciprocate with those people. There's a certain interaction between hearer and disciples. So right now I'm really looking at this little green button over there, which is my camera. And but usually when I look out at devotees, then I look for a reaction. I look for, you know, what's on their face. And when I see that they're awake, or they're inquisitive, or something hits a note, then it gives a certain sense of encouragement. So this Shravanam Kirtanam, chanting, hearing, sometimes, I mean, our scripture is always about that. It's always about someone's asking a question, someone's giving an answer. But even if the question is not articulated explicitly, just devotees' facial reaction is really indicative that something's going on. But you may be able to see me virtually, but I can't see anybody virtually. And so on that side, it's really not the same. And I really hate to see that type of culture. And this has happened really, really quick. This happened just over 2 years of COVID. All of a sudden, Zoom came in and devotees are watching online. Before, sometimes some devotees would connect online, okay, about that they'd watch some temple morning program, they're going to work and so on. Again, that's certainly better than not attending any program at all. But otherwise, to lose that tradition would really, really be a shame. Not having spoken about tradition, I just saw Govinda Maharaj. And well, I still have one hope, and that's from Barshana. Yeah, this sort of loss of tradition. Well, if you want me to give you an example, loss of tradition is that I'm writing writing Vilap Kusumanjali, and I'm on one particular verse where Srimati Radharani's teeth are being red lines are being painted on the teeth. Now, I have asked different devotees to research that. The best I could find is old Indian ladies who, in their youth, remember that it was a sort of practice, that some people did it, but they never saw it since, and it's not going on at present. But Govinda Maharaj just sent me a message, asked him to ask next door, Balaram Baba. He said he never even heard about it. So here's something, it's written in Shastra as a tradition of women's beautification, and it's just gone. No one even knows about it, just like that. So we shouldn't risk Krishna consciousness that all of a sudden no one even knows about Bhagavatam class, live Bhagavatam class. And pretty soon, well, what's the point of having a person give a class? You know, you just have a machine give a class. You have artificial intelligence, and you feed in Srimad Bhagavatam, you punch in 4 or 5 different topics into the computer, and the computer will give you a 45-minute class on those things, and you can bet that there won't be any mistakes in it because it'll be all referred to based on Shastra. So, yeah, is that the kind of direction that we want to go in? Well, I think this is what I'd like to hear Guru Maharaj talk about today. And, you know, of course, you can have any voice there. You can have anybody's voice loaded up as well. And artificial intelligence will make it happen. So So back to the question, and the question was, yeah, what's the difference between hearing from a sadhu in person or hearing a recording or reading a book by the same sadhu? We feel a different energy when being in your personal association and hearing from you. And I mentioned I feel a different energy when I'm associated with devotees here. Then when we hear a recording, nonverbal communication, gestures also say a lot. A video feels more like a connection than just an audio experience. Books, however, provide a very deep spiritual connection, maybe because so much effort goes into them. Prabhupada also emphasized his books. Okay, now, here is not his lectures. Now here is a quote from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This is the 11th canto, 12th chapter, verse 19. Speech is measured in 4 phases. 3 of the phases are called para, or the highest degree. They are situated in pran, at the base of the spine, pashyanti, in the mind, in the navel. It's an interesting thing, the mind is in the navel. And madhyama, situated in intelligence, in the heart. The sages do not reveal their forms. The 4th, called Vaikari, is external speech in the vocal organ. So, okay, that's something that we've read. Now, here's the question. Some say that when a pure devotee speaks, all the levels of sound are present. But when the sound is recorded, the machine captures only an imitation of Vaikari, gross sound, because a machine has no prana, no mind, and no intelligence capable of recording the deeper levels of the vibration. The vibration may also be symbolically recorded in the form of letters on a page. Yet again, the actual vibration is absent. Could I maybe talk about this topic? Well, it's very interesting. I'd be interested to do research on it. As I said, maybe Ananda Chaitanya, or if Lila Sukha Prabhu is also interested in looking this up. There's somewhere one reference where Prabhupada talks about hearing from the lips of a devotee. On the other hand, as we hear, Prabhupada gave so much more emphasis to reading his books than listening to his, than going to his class or his lecture or so on. So Prabhupada emphasized that books and people getting books. Now, you know, someone may argue, well, that's just in order to give people the bhakti sukriti in order to start their devotion going, but actually in order to get real realization, you have to be directly in contact with a realized soul. Because in one sense, that phenomena is the same. If someone himself is not situated on the highest degree, para, if the sound vibration that he emits or she emits is not a fully realized sound vibration, then it's also of a lower quality. So certainly everybody makes spiritual advancement. My answer here is no, I don't know. I can't say that, once again, reading a book is going to be less beneficial than hearing a class, or that as a class of, not class as a Bhagavatam class, but as a category of knowledge that it's a lesser standard of knowledge. Vyasadeva wrote books. These are not really necessarily Shastric arguments, but these are sort of logical arguments, and they don't necessarily support real. Prabhupada wrote books, Vyasadeva wrote books. So much emphasis is on the books, but then once again, this interacting in person with a human as opposed to that human's representation. Because it is, I mean, right now I'm seeing Chaitanya Chandra over there, and but he's just a two-dimensional representation. Chaitanya Chandra isn't two-dimensional. I hope not. So he's three-dimensional as well as everybody else. So we can say, yes, it's not the same. Now, what does that mean, that it's not the same? In circumstances like this, I prefer to do research and see if we can come up with an answer. Right now, I got so many research lines going at the same time that it's not something that I can do. But someone else can look it up because it's quite significant. But the basic question is, yes, by all means, please don't make an issue of seeing lectures on internet. Be here in person, and let's interact. It's a different dynamic. Okay. I don't know. Are devotees sending in any questions as we go?
There's a few questions that came in, but there's still that list that still the original list you read from, starting with Ram Bhadrapur.
Well, let me just see here. We got Sachinandan Das says, in pictures, we see Bhaktivinoda Thakur with no Brahman thread. Why is that? I don't know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's got no Brahman thread. If he's got no neck beads, he's got no anything, he's still Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He can do whatever he likes. The important thing is that he's Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I can't imagine why he doesn't have, why he's not wearing a Brahman thread. Who knows? Maybe according to time and circumstance, just like when you see the only one photograph of Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji, and he's got this blanket in his lap. And that was because, as usual, he's just sitting there in his kopins. And when they were going to take the photograph, they're saying, don't you think you should at least cover yourself with something? So he grabbed what was nearest and he put it in front of him. So that was circumstance. Photographs are, also circumstantial. But, as the song goes, if I see Lord Nityananda walking into a brothel with a bottle of wine in his hand, then I think how wonderful his pastimes are. So, but still, he remains Lord Nityananda. Makes no difference. And above that was Ananda Chaitanya. How can the average householder make this a part of their lives? Which is?
There's a link to a verse there, Srimad Bhagavatam 7:30-31.
What is that? 7:30:31.
I'll read it. One must accept the bona fide spiritual master and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. Whatever one has in one's possession should be offered to the spiritual master, and in the association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord, hear the glories of the Lord with faith, glorify the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord, always meditate on the Lord's lotus feet, and worship the deity of the Lord strictly according to the injunctions of Shastra and Guru.
So here, when Shastra says that you should do that, whenever, always during those periods of time when you're not working for your maintenance. That these are the activities that a average grihastha does. He shouldn't be on social media, wasting his time, or on television, internet, other things. He should do his work if he's working, and of course, the large part of the devotee community are grihasthas. So do their work, and outside of the work, then engage in devotional activity. Yes, one devotee who were introducing me to showed up at Rath Yatra with no tilak. And I said, why don't you have any tilak? He said, well, I don't have any tilak at home. That tells me everything. Someone who has no tilak at home, I think that you're better off looking for another guru. If you have no tilak at home, how much do you play the role of a devotee? What's the problem? It's not a major financial investment. It's something that every devotee should be doing. First thing when they get up in the morning is they put on tilak and they put on devotional clothes. Yes, devotees need to be practicing, grihasthas need to be practicing Krishna consciousness in their homes. And how can they do it? Well, if they're serious about Krishna consciousness, they do it. How do I expect it? I don't know. I don't know whether I expect anything anymore, which is maybe contrary to what devotees see around them in their devotee communities, and to deliver this mood to their wards. So Prabhupada expressed certain level of disappointment with Grihastha disciples. He was expecting them to do more and to participate more. I'm not going to really say anything, but one thing is for sure, is working in the world outside is very difficult, time-consuming, and it's really, really contaminating. So it becomes very difficult. Just because it's difficult, of course, doesn't mean that devotees shouldn't be following the standard that Bhagavatam is laying down over here, and other devotees before they enter into the Grihastha ashram, especially working outside. That's why they should think twice whether that's the kind of life that they want to live. Going back to Godhead is not a given. You have to work for it. And you have to you have to deliver. You have to deliver to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada. And what they're asking is really, really rock bottom price. You know, rock bottom is like, you know, below this, I can't give you any more. So there are different, I had experiences with God brothers, two specifically, one who had left Krishna consciousness was a very important devotee in his time, and he left and got into all kinds of Maya, and had a dream about Prabhupada, and Prabhupada says, okay, if you don't go back, meaning to the temple, then I can't help you anymore. More or less, he's sort of washing his hands off them. And then the devotee came back. Another example was that of another devotee who was promoting a Ritvik philosophy. And Prabhupada came to him in a dream and he says, you continue talking this, you're not going to be my disciple anymore. So that was it. So Prabhupada also had his bottom line. And devotees need to just be conscientious and be aware. It's Krishna consciousness. You have to work for it. Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada have already made as many concessions as are there. They're extremely merciful. We shouldn't take advantage of that. Okay.
We have one sent in from Haladar Prabhu.
You have a question from Haladar?
Maybe Haladar Prabhu, if you're there and you've got your microphone on, you can ask that. It's a very short question.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I'm here.
I'm here.
Please accept my humble obeisances. Question was about the standard of deity worship at home. When devotees worship, for example, Giriraj at home, should they be puja clean? How much should they be into cleanliness and following like the standard in the temple, or is it different for home worship?
That are devotees only worship Gaura-Nitai. Because they're Milechas and Yavanas who haven't the faintest idea about Brahminical standards, only a Milecha would not be puja clean. And the only reason you're not puja clean is because you're too lazy to take a shower. So if that's how much God means to you, that you can't be bothered with taking a shower, then inside the temple, outside the temple, Krishna is Krishna. So that's why I always just emphasize worship Gaura-Nitai, and they're the deities for Milechas and Yavanas. Not Giriraj, and it's just it's a thrill. Oh, I got Giriraj, someone brought him to me, it must be Krishna's arrangement, but I can't be puja clean. If someone can't be puja clean because there's a lady and it happens to be her time of the month, that's something else, but I'm talking about a different type of puja clean. And that's someone just doesn't take the bother. But why not worship Gaura-Nitai? They give everything. So that's we're going to Nichpan, I think Julian Yatra. Oh, last night was the last night of Julian Yatra. So Okay. Yeah. So is that okay, Aladar?
Yes, thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. It's clear now.
Okay. I'm just looking at some questions. I don't have too many. You know, I don't know, 90% of questions that we usually come up with are questions that relate to the stage of, between the stages of faith to anartha nivritti. And that's really where the sort of spectrum in which devotees seem to be constantly absorbed in is how to do this, how to do that, what about this problem, what about that problem, and so on. So Rupa Goswami's, description, Adoshara Sadhu Samatata Bhajanati Anartha Nivritti Nishta, and ascending like that. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the level of Shraddha or faith begins at Nishta. That's considered to be the level of pure faith. That's when devotional service really begins. Shraddha Rati Bhakti Anuttamishasi. So devotional service begins when you're not just combating the senses, the mind, and most of these things. And what I'm saying is that for a large percent, when we're talking about Krishna consciousness, we're constantly in this realm of struggling with the mind and senses. How can I be, that's not one I'm going to forget for a while. Can I be, do I not puja clean for worshiping Giriraj? So it's our real business is, and the real measure of what the Krishna consciousness community is about is when we're discussing topics that are in the realm of Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, or going beyond. Ask any question in Krishna consciousness. And those are very minimal, either from the philosophical point of view or from the point of view of either Krishna's pastimes or rasa. So if you understand what I mean, just like that earlier question about this vicarious sound. So that is a really good philosophical question that takes you out of this realm of worrying about yourself and your lower nature, and engages the mind and intelligence in really trying to understand, as Kaviraj Goswami says, what does he say? Yes, we should. He says Siddhanta. He doesn't say either we should talk about problems, nor does he say necessarily that you have to talk about Leela, Krishna's intimate pastimes. He says Siddhanta Bolya Chittina Paralas. He says one shouldn't hesitate to actually get into studying Siddhanta and engaging one's mind and intelligence in understanding those things which are the underlying principles for all of these issues and contaminations that we have in this material. Why is it that why is it that the material senses and mind are so attracted to sense objects? You can talk about different Band-Aid solutions, but actually this Siddhanta Bodhiya Chitte, but understanding how the senses work, how the mind works, Bhagavatam is full of this. And how they're actually created and the interaction, that actually helps us go to the root basis of the problems and understand why actually we've come to this very humiliating, embarrassing situation where we, spirit, soul, aparayamitasthanyam, prakritim vidime param, where this higher spiritual nature has become attached to this lower matter, this material body, this filthy, dirty thing, that's just a combination of all kinds of unmentionable things. And we consider, someone else who has a similarly unmentionable dirty body as our beloved or as our children and so on. Why? And that's the type of discussions that actually Ishtagoshtis are meant to be about. Ishtagoshti is again not an extension. Now, before you're discussing the individual problems, now you're discussing the collective problems. So, but rather that you actually discuss Krishna conscious principles and philosophy. And it's such a wonderful thing. It's so very stimulating. And it's stimulating. So he says, Siddhanta Bodhiya Chittinapara, don't neglect it. Okay, I think we shall leave it there. I'm really happy that I was able to see all these devotees, and now I'm trying to look at the big spreadsheet again, or at least where I see everybody, and but I can't do it. I don't know, maybe I'm in control here. Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in, and I hope everyone's taking care of themselves spiritually, materially, health-wise, and so on. And we'll arrange to meet again. We're going to be having a lovely Janmashtami here. Although I had this fleeting glimpse of a message, and which says that August 19 and 20, all of the filling stations, gas filling stations, are going to shut down. Looks like that, yeah. So fill your tank up before then. And 18th is Janmashtami, 19th is Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja. We're going to have lovely, and Radhastami coming up 2 weeks thereafter, and we'll have a 2-day festival for Radhastami, and we have Niranjan Maharaj and Govinda Maharaj and myself. Originally, Indra Maharaj was going to be here, but now he went to New Mayapur, and since he hasn't been there since 1986, I had to forget him. 1986, that's a long time. Okay, so everyone be well, Hare Krishna, and Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Guru Maharaj ki
Jai, Hare Guru Maharaj, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bye bye.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.